to the whatever we have seen in the principles of PGM, we have learned probability theory as the key element. That is, everything is based upon the occurrence of the particular event, and we will consider them to be the characteristics of a random variables. Okay, so in database you have learned for each and every which and every entity, your entity is defined by the different attributes. Okay, so the way we define the attributes in the data set. Okay, the attributes we are in PGM, what we are trying to say that is attributes are nothing but random variables. Okay, so because it is having a set of values, and then it can take any values in that particular thing. Okay, for example, if I consider age as an example, okay, of a particular employee. Okay, so age of an employee, what do you mean by that? There is a closed set for it. Okay, so we will consider only integers for it. We won't consider age as 18.3 or 18.4 or 18 year and 3 months and 7 days. Like that, we don't specify age. Okay, age will be just numbers only. Okay, so that is the attribute. Okay, that age is a random variable also. Why? Because age is also a set of values. Age of an employee is nothing but the set of values wherein a person can get employed. Okay, so if I consider, for example, in engineering college, if we consider, okay, so once you pass the BE, then you can become an engineer to teach. Okay, so the age that you pass BE will be maximum maximum it can be of, sorry, minimum it can be only of 20 years. Okay, you can't do BE before 20 years. So the initial value will be 20. And what about the final value? The maximum age of retirement is 65 up to now, like that too, with extensions you can have for the principal's post. Okay, and the remaining all other posts, it is below 60. Okay, so what we have, the minimum value is 20 and maximum value is 65. Okay, so if we consider these two criteria together, then you will can tell age as a random variable, which is I will not say continuous, discrete in nature, and the value can range from 20 to 65. Okay, so any of the employee in SFIT, for example, will be having a age between any of the faculty in the SFIT will be having an age between 20 and 65. So that can be considered as a random variable. Okay, so any attribute in the database we are going to consider here as a random variable, and every properties of those random variables will apply over here. Okay, so that is one of the first thing that we consider in PGM. Okay, so we were exploring the properties of the probability theory first. Okay, so we have seen an example of a medical diagnosis system where the season is affecting, causing some flu or hay fever. And if you have a flu, you will be, or a hay fever, you will be having the some symptoms like muscle pain for flu and congestion for both flu and hay fever. So here what we have tried to see, what is probability. Okay, now what I have told, in the particular age, for example, you have a probability space for it. Okay, now age can be any value between 20 and 65. So 20 minus 65, you can have a value to be 45. Okay, so any of those 45 variables, so that is said to be the possible spaces. Okay, for the possible space of an age of an faculty in SFIT will be between 20 and 65. That means 45 ages will be there, or age numbers will be there. Space, we have a possible values. Okay, that is what we are trying to tell in the next slide. Okay, so how we can define the possible values? The possible values will be some of the values that we will consider, okay, on a particular variant based on particular variance. Okay, so here also we consider the possible values to be of 64 values, and when I go for a joint distribution, okay, given a joint distribution of that space, now like how I want to know is like what will be the age criteria of an assistant professor in SFIT. Okay, to be an assistant professor in SFIT, what is the criteria? You know that you have to be at least ME or masters in engineering. To become the masters in engineering, now 20 will become 20 plus 2, 22. Okay, so the range of assistant professors age will become minimum 22 value, because one, if 20 is the age for B criteria for computing for cat like minimum criteria, I'm told it is either 21 or 22. Okay, so consider 20 or 21 to be the minimum age, then plus 2, 23 will become the minimum age. Okay, so now what happened, instead of the possible spaces, now it have become a subset of it. Okay, instead of 20 to 65, it has become 25 to, okay, now assistant professor cannot become associate professor, assistant professor cannot become associate professor, it is fine. Assistant professor cannot become um, a principal, because the qualification of principal should be PhD. Okay, now what about the higher end? Higher end, it will be reduced from 65 to 60. So the term of service or the ages corresponding to the assistant professor, now what had happened, it became from 22 to 60. Okay, so this became a subset of it. So that is what we are trying to tell over here is, now if I have a distribution space, okay, the joint distribution will become a subset of it, and we don't have to, we can consider all the exemptions. Now I can remove all the principal condition, because principal is not going to be an assistant professor. Okay, and all lecturers also I can outline, because lecturers also your lecturers won't be having the simple qualification that is required for the professors, that is assistant professors, that is ME or MTech or master's program. Okay, so that is called the joint distribution, and instead of the possible spaces, you will become a narrow it down to the probable space. Okay, so that probability, that is called as that is the advantage of joint distribution. So what happened, all the extreme cases we have removed, that is lecturers we have removed, and the professors we have removed from the set. Okay, so that is the role of the probability space. Now coming to graph structure, in the graph structure what we are trying to say is, define is the independence nature of it. Okay, like what all are variables are dependent on each other will be defined by the independence, one of the properties of the graph. So what is it? Like given congestion, okay, given given the congestion, the congestion of a particular patient is independent of the season given flu or hay fever. Now what happens is, we are trying to eliminate the attributes there in the first string. When in the probability, what we have done, we have tried to eliminate by using joint distribution, we try to eliminate the attribute values. Okay, in the graph structure, we are trying to eliminate the dependence between the different variables, because some variables will be independent of others. Okay, so if it is independent of others, we don't have to consider it only. Now, if I want to know the probability of the congestion, and if I know whether the patient is having flu or hay fever, then season doesn't have any rule of it, because season is flu and hay fever is dependent on season. And once the season information is passed on to flu or hay fever, then season doesn't have any role in it. Okay, so that is why we are trying to say that independence over here, that is the congestion given flu or hay fever and season is equal to congestion given flu or hay fever, because season is not going to contribute anything towards this particular information. Okay, only contribution is not there. It doesn't mean that the season congestion is independent of season. Okay, whenever it is this particular month, as I told you in the last lecture, okay, this is known as the Shravan ka Mahina. Shravan ka Mahina mein you are going to have congestions only. Okay, whether it is in terms of flu or hay fever, that depends upon your body conditions only. Okay, so that is why That is, what do you mean by independence? It doesn't mean that it's not going to be independent only, but once you have identified whether you are flu or hay fever, then you don't have to think which season it is. You have to just give check for the next symptoms along with it and identify whether it is flu or hay fever and give the medication according to your condition. Okay, so combining these two, that is class conditional independence as well as the probabilistic joint distribution, you can define a compact parameterization wherein you require only these many values. Okay, now instead of 64 problem space we have started with, here we require only 5 numbers to identify the condition probability of you having um, um, hay fever given the season is spring and given you have sinus congestion and muscle pain. Okay, so only 5 values I require. What is the probability that the season is spring? What is the probability that flu is false and season is spring? What is the probability that hay fever is true and season is spring? What is the probability is that the congestion is true and hay fever is true and flu is false, and muscle pain where flu is false. So these many conditions, if you are able to do, identify these many values, then easily by multiplying all these 5 numbers, you will get the probability of you getting fever, hay fever with sinus congestion and muscle pain in the season of spring. Okay, so this is reducing the computational complexity very much, and that is why PGMs have become a very important factors in the data science, and that is why you have it in your syllabus. Okay, so if I consider our syllabus now, only IITs have PGM in their syllabus, and Chennai universities have PGM in the syllabus, and newly it is introduced in the Mumbai University. Okay, so not many universities are offering this particular course also. Okay, now coming to probabilistic graphic models. Now, once we know that different models are there, we are going to have only 2 families of graphical representations. Okay, one is a directed graph, which is represented by Bayesian network, and the other is Markov networks, which is an undirected graph. Directed graph means the information flow will be only one-sided, and undirected graph, it can be of 2-sided. So our entire syllabus will be based on these 2 family of representation. Now, what we have seen, once you have a representation, when you have an inference regarding the representation and the learning in it, it will create the complete PGM system or framework. Okay, so representation, we are going for the graphical representation. Inference, we are going for like a computation of the posterior probability, which we have computed, we have told just now. Okay, that is probability of the event spring, no hay fever. This type of defining the overall joint distribution of a particular variable or attribute is, it is like we are trying to identify whether you are having a hay fever or whether you are having a flu given the season is spring and your symptoms. Okay, so that type of extracting the information from the knowledge represented in terms of a graphical model is known as inference. And the learning, which is the last one we are going to have, is nothing but if I am given a data, how am I able to create the model? What are the different ways in which you can do it? Okay, and extract the information, everything we can do without human inference. That is what we are trying to do about learning, that is why it is part of the machine learning subject. Okay, now coming to our the module 1. Okay, so we started with the topic. There we have seen that what is probability theory in the last lecture. Okay, what is probability theory? What we have considered was the degree of confidence that an event occur, that we already know. So for the dice, we have seen the event spaces are nothing but agreed upon possible outcomes. For the dice, you can have the outcomes to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And of that, we have a measurable event wherein we are trying to find out some events out of the event that you are going to throw the dice. Okay, so if I want to consider a subset of it, like the event 6 represents where whether the dice show 6, and even 135 is the case where there is an odd outcome. Okay, so a specific event we will consider of the set of possible events, then we call it to be a measurable events. And same we have seen with the coin example also. Then we have seen the three basic properties of probability theory in the last class, that is empty event and trivial event. Empty event is nothing occurring, and trivial event is it will occur with the probability 1, because we are identifying it by either close. Okay, so for example, when I toss a fair coin, either head or tail will come. There is not going to be, nothing is going to come, or there so that either or case, that either head or tail, is known as a trivial event, which will say that it is going to happen with the probability 1. The second one is it is closed under union. Union in the sense what? That is, if I consider the subset of the particular event, then union will also be the same event. Okay, union will also have the sum of the probabilities. Okay, that is, if I have considered the probability of occurring 1 in the dice and 2 in the dice, I have told 1 is 1 by 6, 2 is 1 by 6. So union is 1, 2, set 1, 2 occurring. That is, when I throw the dice, what is the probability that either 1 or 2 occurs will be sum of the probabilities, that is 1 by 6 plus 1 by 6, which is equal to 2 by 6. That is closed under union. The last one is complementation. That means what? If I can got 1, 2 as 2 by 6, the complement, or that what is complement of that? Getting 3, 4, 5, and 6 is said to be omega. Omega is what? The total probability value. This is equal to 1 by 1 minus 2 by 6, which is equal to 4 by 6. So the complementation is nothing but it is telling the event 3, 4, 5, 6 can occur with the probability of 1 minus 2 by 6, which is equal to 4 by 6. Okay, so this much we have seen. Then what we have seen is a special condition. Okay, this is a special condition. Whenever we throw the dice, what happens? They are said to be mutually exclusive event. Why? Because when I throw the dice, either 2 or 3 occurs. It is not going to happen that 2 and 3 will occur simultaneously. Okay, that type of events are said to be mutually exclusive events, and the intersection will be null. It is not necessary that always you will have mutually exclusive events. If it is not mutually exclusive events, the closure will look like this only. That is sum of the probabilities minus the probability of intersection of both the events we need to consider the union property. Now coming to the last one, that P of alpha equal to 1 means we know something is going to occur only, and alpha equal to 0 means nothing is possible. Okay, so these are the two extreme conditions, and other possible values represent will be lying between 0 and 1. Then what we have seen in the previous lecture was interpretations of the probability. That is two common interpretations. Then remember I told the story of the dice and the coin example, where the frequentist concept is being considered. So in the frequentist concepts, what we do is like the frequency of occurring an event. Okay, so I remember I told you about why I was confused about dice, why there is a possibility, why we are doing all those computations. I had a question in mind. Okay, when I was a kid. Now, subjective interpretation gave an importance of the probability. Why? Because if we throw the dice, it is not going to change your system. But if it is going to rain tomorrow, which example I gave for the subjective interpretation, it is going to give some information to us. Okay, which is going to be very important. Okay, and to understand how this interpretation works in the subjective manner, we require frequentist interpretation, because both are going to have the same mathematical rules behind it. Okay, that is why we are learning the dice concepts, and we are learning probability based on dice. But actually, this interpretation is having a major role compared to frequentist interpretation for any event. Now, coming to basic concepts in probability theory, then we have considered the intersection, that is the events which is not mutually exclusive. Okay, so if alpha is all students with grade A and beta is said to be the students with high intelligence, then alpha intersection beta is set of intelligent students who got grade A. So if I want to calculate this particular probability, then what you defining the rules of the chain. Acha. Okay. What is a chain rule? The chain rule is telling like how to compute the conditional probabilities in a chain manner. Okay, so how it will be is like what we have seen in the multiplication of 5 events. Okay, so what is the probability that the season is spring into the probability that the season is spring and um, flu is equal to false. The probability that the season is spring and hay fever is equal to true. Like that, you will be having a sequence of events, and the dependence between the sequence of events can be combined to considered together to compute the overall probability. Okay, so this is the first property of the conditional probability, which is chain rule that we have applied for computation of the joint distribution. The second one is Bayes rule, which is also using the property of chain rule. We have derived the Bayes rule, which says that the compute the it is a property which allows us to compute the conditional probability from the inverse probability, that is from that we have seen with the example of the intelligent student case. Okay, remember this we have seen as an example of the probability. That is, if I have a student who is smart and with grade A as 0.86 and the probability of smart students is 0.3 and the test taken is the grade for the test taken is 0.2, then smart students giving grade A. Okay, from the grade A, we can interpret whether intelligence of the student or not is given by 0.9. Why this is happening? Because the test was difficult and the percentage of students who got the grade A is less. Okay, then you can conclude that grade A strongly suggests that the intelligent students are smart. Okay, now what happens if I decrease the difficulty level of the test? Then what happens? All the students will start getting grade A. Okay, so what will happen to the probability of grade A? The probability of grade A will increase. So when I increase from 0.2 to zero point 0.4, then what happens? The grade is going to reflect the intelligence of the students. Like how the grade of the student is going to reflect the intelligence of the students will come down to 0.45. So see the effect over here. I just increase the probability of grade A from 0.2 to zero point 0.4. Rest all parameters are same, but you see the probability of grade is suggesting that the student is intelligent have reduced from zero point 0.9 to 0.545. That is, it is reduced by half. So what it is telling, if the test is easy, then we cannot conclude that the student is smart. Okay, so with that only we have concluded the last lecture. Okay, because we had a 45-hour time, it took a lot of time to conclude what we have learned. Now we will move on to the new topic. Now we will move on to the new topic in probability stick graph models, which is known as random variables and joint distributions. So here what we see is what is a random variable? Okay, now we are going back to probability theory in detail again. Okay, so what is a random variable is generally probability distributions deal with the measurable events. Remember what is measurable event? Out of the events, which event I am interested in, that is known as a measurable events. So the description of events is in terms of the attributes of the outcome. That is what all values we are going to have. Now, if you consider a patient, for example, the attribute relevant for a patient to identify what type of disease he is having, E, and the symptoms, that is, the attributes relevant for assigning the probability over the possible diseases and symptoms, because we are going to build a medical diagnosis system, are said to be age, gender, and smoking history. Okay, so these are some of the attributes, but these are going to be most important attributes corresponding to any medical diagnosis system. Okay, so if you when you go to a hospital, the first thing they will ask you is age. You know why? Because you can narrow down your possible diseases to the age. Okay, so if I am a kid, what then entire thing will be taken care by pediatrician. Okay, if the age is in the middle age, then you can have to see the all the illness will be regarding to your lifestyle problems. And one of the major cause in the lifestyle problem is going to be smoking. Okay, if you are smoking, then there are chances for you to have a lot of diseases. Okay, your subset will be very more, and if you are not smoking, then the subset will reduce to a small thing. So I want to conclude that please don't smoke. Okay, now the formal machinery for discussing these attributes and their values. Now remember, the attributes are nothing but our values that we store in the data, which we are going to treat them as random variables. Okay, and whatever values that I can have are said to be random variables, and the values it can take. So what is a random variable? So random variable is a way of reporting an attribute of the outcome. Okay, so which are the attributes, values, and what is the outcome of that particular value, or what are the values that attribute can hold, will be defined by a random variable. Now, suppose we have a random variable grade, which reports the final grade of a student. Then the statement grade equal to A is its value. So you have attribute A as grade and the attribute value to be A. Okay, in our student example, what we have seen, the attribute is grade. The attribute values will be A, B, and C. So the grade can take only values A, B, and C. Okay, so this we are trying to give a formal definition, nothing other than that. So in the formal definition, what we are trying to say is a random variable is defined by a function that associates with each outcome in the an omega value, in omega a value. Okay, now grade, for example. Okay, so what is omega value? Omega value is the set of grade possible, which is equal to A, B, and C. Okay, now if I want to concentrate on grade A, then that value will become the subset of all the values of the grade, and we will concentrate on that. Okay, so that is random variable. The random variable is grade, and the outcome or the random value corresponding to each the variable is nothing but grade equal to A. Now, grade is defined by a function that maps each person in omega to his or her grade. Okay, that is how we are going to define. We have students with name, and each and every students with the name, it will be having some grade. That is, we are just trying to map the primary key of the data set to the attribute values. Okay, so primary key will be distinguishing each and every element in the data set, and the value will be the value corresponding to the all possible attribute values that you are having. Okay, so the event grade equal to A is a shorthand for the event omega element of omega, that is grade A element of the set of grades A, B, C. F of omega, that is what the value I am going to have for the grade equal to A. Now, if I consider this, this is only the representation of it. Okay. Now, if I say that amongst the students of grade A, B, and C, the possibility that the students will have grade A is 0.3. Okay. So this is what we are trying to assign over here. So 0.3 of the, what is omega over here? The 0.3 of the values of the students will be having the grade A. That is a direct computation of event probability, which we are going to consider when we explore more in that particular domain. Now, what is a random variable? Random variables can take different sets of values. Okay, so there are two different sets of values. The first one is known as discrete random variables or categorical random variables. Okay, so they can take one of the few values. Okay, they will not take the values in between. That is why we call it to be categorical or discrete in nature. For example, age. We will, if you consider age as a number, we will consider age to be only the values that can be ranging from say 20 to 60 in the example that we have seen. Okay, that is any values between a maximum value and a minimum value will be considered, and it will be considered as a number. So they may take one of the few values that it can have. So any number between, for example, for a child, any number between um, 1 to 10 can be considered as a child. Okay, 1 to um, 12 I will consider as a child or a kid. Okay, then after 12 what happens? The kid or child will turn to a teen. So that depends upon what variable you are going to consider. So any of those values only it will take. It will not take the values in between. So those are said to be discrete random variables. And value x is the notation that we are going to use for the random variable x. So these notations are very important because as and when we explore more, we will be going with these particular notations only, and we will not be defining that in detail. The second type of random variables that we have is known as continuous random variable. In continuous random variable, what happens? They can take infinitely any values. That is, for example, here we consider the height of the student. The height of the student can be represented in terms of centimeters also, in terms of inches also. Okay, in inches also, in centimeters also, I can say that my in inches, feet and inches, we will be having 5 feet, 1 inch, 5 feet, 2 inch, etc. up to 7 feet. Okay, so maximum you can have is 7 feet and minimum will be around 4 feet. So all the values will range from 4 feet to 7 feet. But if the value I consider to be any values in between, then I can write as 4 feet 1 inches, then and so on. Okay, for example, centimeter case, it can range from around 140 centimeter. If I consider 140 centimeter, then for the student I am talking about, okay, 140 centimeter, student in university. Okay, student in university will be having minimum of 140 centimeter. Then the value can be 141, 142, etc. 141.1 also can be considered. 140.01 also can be considered. 140.001 also can be considered. Okay, so such type of variables are known as continuous variables, random variables, which can take any values in between. So we will be seeing both the condition, both the things, but mostly in our studies we will concentrate only on categorical random variables because that is easier to interpret. Okay, and any continuous variable can be converted to categorical type by applying a simple logic of if and else. Okay, if it is between 140 to 160, then we can call them to be 150, we can call them to be very short, then 150 to 160 short, and so on. We can define those variables and convert the continuous type to categorical type. Now, categorical random variables, we are going to use uppercase letters to denote the random variables and the lowercase letters to denote the value of the particular random variable. So here we can see that the uppercase x equal to lowercase x greater than or equal to 0 for all values of x element of value x. Okay, now remember what we are talking about value of x. Value of x is nothing but, what is the definition of the value of x? Value of x is nothing but the set of values that random variables can take. So here we have seen the set of values the variable can take will be always greater than 0. Okay, the probability, it cannot have a negative value. The probability will be always greater than 0. So this is a way of explaining the same thing. Okay, so what it is telling, it looks mathematically very complicated to see this particular line of, this particular line. You find it to be very mathematical, but it is just telling that the probability that a random variable, for example, age, can take any values, say age is equal to 20, will be always greater than 0. That is greater than or equal to 0. That means age can be either 20 or not equal to 20. Okay, So it equal to 0 means not equal to 20. Okay, and equal to, and sometimes there will be people with age 20, then the value will be greater than 0. This only it is going to tell. But random variable age is defined by capital X. The value is defined by small x, age equal to 10. Okay. So for all values in the domain that we are having, that is age can take what all values that we are considering. So the notation x1, x2, etc., that is superscript values, we consider for value of k, which is the sum of the values. Okay, this is said to be the set of the values that we are going to consider. So that is a number of elements in the value of x. Now you remember we were talking about the age of the assistant professors. The set of the assistant professor values, the ages corresponding to the assistant professor will vary from 22 to 60. Okay, so 22 to 60 means what? 22 to 60, it can take any values like 22, that is this can be 22, this can be 23, etc. up to 60. So 22 to 60, I will have a value of 38. Okay, right? 60 minus 22 is 38. So I will have the age to have a value between 22 and 60 as 38 values, 39 values, including, because it is inclusive of both the values. So 39 values will be there. So this k value will be equal to 39, the number of elements in the x. And if I consider them, the sum of the probabilities, that is the sum of the assistant professor having age is equal to each and every age I will consider from 22 to 60. And if I add them together, that will add up to 1, because all assistant professors will be falling in the same age category only. Okay. So distribution over such a variable is called a multinomial distribution, because I am telling all these things because when you see all these terms now, you feel like it is something very complicated, but it is not so. Now, what do you mean by a multinomial distribution? It is nothing but a distribution which is telling what are the probabilities of each and every event that is occurring. Now we will go back to our student example. In the student example, students can take grade A, grade B, and grade C. So what is the probability? The probability will be probability of a student to get grade C is 50. Okay, and 60 is somewhere regarding 0.3, and this is somewhere regarding 0.15. Okay, so the sum of these probabilities is going to be equal to 1. So students will either take grade A or grade B or grade C. Okay, so the sum of the probability is going to be 1. Okay, so this type of distribution, or it's known as multinomial distribution. So when you see multinomial, you will feel, and distribution and all, you feel like it is something very difficult term and all. It is just telling you that the sum of the probability is equal to 1, and the probability graph will look like this. That is, there will be in the x-axis will be the events, and the y-axis will be having the probability of occurrence or the number of outcomes, and the sum of the probability will add up to 1. Okay, so such type of distributions are known as multinomial distribution. Now, Bernoulli distribution. If I consider Bernoulli distribution, it is a type of multinomial distribution. Here we consider only binary valued. That is why it is known as Bernoulli's distribution. On binary value of a variable x will be having only 2 values. Either it will be true or it will be false. It cannot take more than true values. That is why it is a binary value. Okay, and what the distribution will look like? The distribution will look like this only. That is, this is the false condition and this is the true conditions. Around 0.7 and 0.8, maybe around 0.75 I will consider to be the probability for the true condition, and 0.75 है तो ये 0.25 होगा. That is the condition for the false conditions, and sum of the probabilities add up to 1. So Bernoulli distribution, when you see Bernoulli distribution, it looks like a very complicated term, but it is nothing. But it is just telling the distribution of the events, which binary event, which are the binary events, true or false. Okay, false is 0 and true is 1. Then sum of the probabilities will add up to 1. and the number of outcomes you will probability will be denoted by this. That is, you will have only two values and the number of outcomes will be defined on it. Okay, now if I have this, if the number of observations, okay, that you are going to have is 100 or 1000 or 10,000 or 1 lakh, okay, this distribution will be looking like this only. Okay, so there is no change in dependence of the number of attribute values that you are going to attribute number of data set values that you are going to consider. Okay, it is going to define, it is going to look like this only, and that is the importance of the all these distributions in probability. Okay, we are confining everything to come between the value of 0 and 1. Okay, so that you can apply it to any type of values. Now coming to the next topic, what we have is marginal and joint distributions. Now what is marginal distribution we will see, what is joint distribution we will see. Okay, marginal distributions, once we define a random variable x, we can consider the distribution over events that can be described by x. Okay, and such type of distribution is known as marginal distribution. Okay, so that is denoted by p of x. Now considering the example, okay, what is the example we have considered is regarding the student data set. Consider the random variable intelligence. Now what are the possible values of intelligence? Intelligence can be high or low. Okay, so the probability that intelligence is equal to high, or probability that intelligence equal to low, or probability of the trivial event, that is intelligence, the probability that intelligence is either high or low, which is equal to 1. This is assumed to assure that this probability sums up to 1. Okay, this assurance is required. Why? Because once you haven't assured this particular thing, that is sum of the probability equal to 1, then you may be missing out some values. Okay, so to assure that your probability computation is perfect, we have to consider the trivial event and see that everything is summing up to 1. Then that means you have considered all possible values corresponding to a particular random variable, and then you can go ahead. Okay, this is only a test thing that we are trying to do, so that we are not going to make any mistakes while computation. So these probabilities are defined by the probability distribution over the original space. This is very easy to understand. Why? Because you have the outcome in hand. You have to just count the number of highs upon number of intelligence is equal to high upon number of students that is we have registered. That is number of students in the data set. Okay, so count the number of high upon number of students, count the number of low upon number of students. The number of students with high and number of students with low should sum up to the number of students, so that your property, you didn't make any mistake in the computations. Now coming to the examples that we have. Intelligence, the class intelligence will be having the intelligence equal to high will be having the probability value 0.3. That means the probability of intelligence equal to low will be 1 minus 0.3 equal to 0.7. Okay, because we are talking about only one attribute at a time. Okay. Now for the random variable grade, now it can it is only binary value. Here you have a multinomial values. The grade can be A, B, and C, and 0.25, 0.37, and 0.38 together it will sum up to 1. Okay, so here we restrict our attention to the subsets of S that can be described by the random variable X. Okay, so grade equal to A only we will consider, or grade equal to B only we consider, or grade equal to C only we will consider. Now we will move on to the next distribution, which is known as joint distribution. Now, which is not this symbol probability, we are okay with it, but it is not going to give you any information about it. Okay, very few little information about it. That is, it will just give me how many intelligent students are there in a class. But remember, what is the significance of grade how the grade is grade equal to A is telling me that whether the student is intelligent or not. If I want to compute, I have to go for a joint distribution. So in many cases, we are interested in the values of the random variables or attribute values we are interested in, like whether grade is A or intelligence equal to high, then what happens. So grade intelligence equal to high and grade equal to A, we consider the joint distribution over these two possible values. Now, joint distribution of a set of values of the variables. Okay, now I have different variables. X is equal to x1, x2, etc. up to xn. That is age, the student intelligence is there. Then we have SAT score was there, grade was there. And so many variables we have considered for the student cases. That is difficulty level, etc. We have to consider. Okay, so those variables we are defining as capital X. Remember, variables is defined by capital X, and the probability is denoted by x1, x2, xn, because we are going to have multiple variables to consider for the computation of the probability. So it assigns probability events that are specified in terms of these random variables only. Now, suppose a symbol, this symbol, I don't know what to call, epsilon only, I think. Capital epsilon, not small one. Capital epsilon is used to refer to a full assignment of variables in X. That is, if I consider all the variables in a particular set, that is, if I considered grade equal to A, grade equal to B, and grade equal to C, then all the grades we are going to consider about a variable grade. So val X is equal to grade, and all the elements we are going to consider for a particular grade, that grade equal to A, B, and C, all we are using it, then we denote it by the capital epsilon. Now, joint distributions of two random variables has to be consistent with the marginal distribution in that the sum of the probability values should always add up to 1. Okay, now if I consider the grade, for example, grade over here. Okay, the grade of A probability is 0.25, B probability is 0.37, C probability is 1. So it sums up to 1. Intelligence, low is 0.7 and high is 1. So it sums up to 1. So like this, we have to consider. That is why for over here, X is said to be, for example, if I consider X to be the grade, then it is summing up over here to 1. And if I consider intelligence to be X, then this also sums up to 1. Now, here we compute the marginal distribution over grade by summing up the probability around each row. Okay, so these are the probabilities. I summed up each row, and the value came up to 1. And intelligence, if I considered, I have to consider each column. Okay, this is first column, this is second column. And when I added it together, the 0.7 and 0.3, I got it equal to 1. Okay, so the resulting sums are typically written in the row or the column margins. Here also we are writing it in the margins. Here also we are writing it in the margin. That is why it is known as marginal distribution, just to remember that. Okay. So when I do joint distribution, the marginal distributions can be defined at the end in the margins. And these we are defining the marginal distribution corresponding to the grade and marginal distribution corresponding to the intelligence. Now, suppose we have a joint distribution over the variables, that is x1, etc. up to xn. Here we have x1 is equal to a grade and x2 equal to intelligence. Most fine grade events are the ones that forms x1 equal to 1 and x2 equal to 2, etc. up to xn equal to xn for the choice of values that you have for the variables. Okay, so any two events must be either identical or disjoint, since they both assign values to all the variables. So once you make the condition, that is over here I consider the grade to be A, B, C, and here intelligence to be low and high, then what it is saying is like either it will be identical. That is, when I say grade equal to A and intelligence equal to low, or intelligence equal to low or grade equal to A, that is same only. And the second one, what it is telling, it is saying disjoint. Disjoint means what? If I consider the students with grade A and low to be 0.07, then grade A and 0.18 will be the student that is belonging to this particular category will never belong to this particular category or any particular category, because we are adding up to 1. Okay, that is why we are calling it as disjoint. Okay, so this looks mathematically something very tedious, very cumbersome and all. It is just telling very simple facts. The first is the probability should add up to 1, because whether it is joint distribution or the probability distribution or the marginal distribution, okay, it should add up to 1. Okay, in this, then again we are going to consider exclusive cases only. If one grade A and students with grade A and low will be entirely different. The students with grade A and low will be the set of students which will not fall under any other categories. That is high grade A, low B, grade B, high grade B, low grade C, high grade C. They will never belong to any of these categories, but belong only to one particular category. Okay, so that is what it is telling. Now we are working in a canonical outcome space, a space where each outcome responds to a joint assignment to X1. Okay, now what we considered over here, this is said to be the canonical workspace. That is, this belongs to a student with grade A and intelligence low. So all our probability computations remain the same, whether we consider the original outcome, that is all students, or canonical space, that is all combinations of intelligent and grade A student. Okay. So that is considered to be a canonical space. So all probability computations, whether it is joint distribution or marginal distribution, the computation is just over probability and it will remain same. And epsilon is used to denote these atomic outcomes, that is all values, assigning a value to each and every variable in X. Now, with this, I will conclude. Okay, don't worry, I don't have any more slides. Okay, so X is equal to intelligence and grade is given. What are the possible outcomes? Okay, so X intelligence can take 2 values and grades it can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 values that we can consider for a particular 2 attributes, intelligence and grade, are said to be the atomic outcomes. Okay, which is the finest condition of these 2 variables. Okay, the finest one we can have is defining for each and every intelligence category what grade you can have. So together we will be having 6 atomic outcomes corresponding to this particular joint distribution. Okay, so with that we will conclude joint distribution. One small topic is that conditional probability, which I take in the next lecture and continue. Okay.